to jam anybody's.
No, you're fine. You might want some gaff tape I can get you.
Oh, if you have gap, it'd be lovely.
Yeah, that doesn't always seem to work so well.
I didn't bring it.
I need to just
No, by all means.
get this in here.
By all means. Hook on in. Do we not have a mole?
There is, some people are getting a little bit of a buzz.
Feedback.
Yeah, I was going to deal with it, but
This
it's just not.
clamp is a piece of work.
Does anybody need that? Yep.
I'll get you some tape in 1 second.
Oh no, gotta handle that first, by all means. Thank you. Good morning. Sorry, the mole's not working.
Oh, it's not?
Oh, I don't know. It says there's a little bit of feedback.
Oh. If I can get the feedback, get a new malt button. I'll be here over. Try that.
Tips welcome.
I knew what she looked like, but I just didn't see her. I think my team must have taken it out of my bag, but someone might have some gaff tape that you can borrow.
I might.
That might work.
I'm gonna try and like tape it over. Just I know not gonna be attractive, but for the shot, but make it jankety. Ooh.
I wanted to introduce you to Bill. Whatsoever.
take my seat.
I mean, I assume that this was good.
If all the young people who are speaking today could come up, Nadia, Toccata, Kallan, Aramisa, and of course Tamara, come on up.
you? Good, good. Chris, Mark, going. Yeah. Working the crowd. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anytime.
What did you say?
Senator Hirono will be joining us.
Senator Hirono.
Yeah, no one did.
Greta is going to be here. She will take questions. She will get to questions. Speak to you. She will take work. She will respond. Keep getting. What? And, is it? He's with me. You can see his son. Yeah, he's back.
In for the block.
Chris,
Killing it.
Senator Markey, Senator John, Brown, nice to meet you. Senator Markey, from do Estado do Oregon. Aramisa is from Brazil. Hi, nice to meet you.
Martin Heinrich.
João, nice to meet you. Lisa, Tuntia, he's Senator Marco, Dinaman, Senator Merkley.
Senator Markey.
Good morning. I want to welcome everyone, including my colleagues, Senator Jeff Merkley, Martin Heinrich, and Chris Van Hollen. We're also going to be joined by Senator Mazie Hirono. And we all welcome these dedicated, bold, intrepid activists from all over the planet who are joining us this week in Washington, D.C. Nadia Nazar, co-founder and co-director of 0 Hour. Dakota INI's indigenous youth activist. Kallan Benson, Fridays for the Future. Aramisa Barbosa Ribeiro, youth environmental activist from Brazil. Greta Thunberg, founder of the School Strike for Climate Movement. And Tamara Toles O'Laughlin, North American Director for 350.org. We are here today to bring hope because we have no time for fear. We are here today in solidarity because we have no time for division. We are here to demand action today because tomorrow is too late. The climate crisis is the economic, national security, health, and moral crisis of our times. No nation can escape the impacts of extreme weather, droughts, wildfires, heat waves, rising sea levels, and displacement. As a people and a planet, we must all be united because we will all lose if we fail to act. And no generation stands to lose more than the young people who have come to the United States Capitol today. Young people are leading the climate action movement around the globe because for them, climate change is a matter of life and death. And the United States bears the historic responsibility for where we find ourselves today. Much of the CO2 in the atmosphere is red, white, and blue. We must take action in the United States, and we can with the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is the promise we make today to all of the young people here, that the future is not yet lost, that there are leaders who understand the bold, transformational action necessary to combat this crisis, which is why Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I introduced the Green New Deal resolution in February. We must immediately ramp up wind and solar, cut our dependence on fossil fuels, and embrace the goals of a Green New Deal to avoid going past 1.5 degrees of warming on this planet. Our energy future will not be found in a Saudi oil field, but in a Swedish solar farm. And I thank Greta Thunberg for making the journey here by boat to share her commitment to action. We can achieve 100% clean, renewable, and zero-emission electricity, protect our workers, and provide clean water and clean air to all communities. We have the technology to do it. We have the moral obligation to do it. We have the economic imperative to do it. We just need the political will to do it. So to all of the young activists here and to all those taking to the streets later this week, thank you. I stand with you. We stand with you. You are the future wind turbines dotting the countryside. You are the solar panels on the roofs and the deserts across the globe. You are the technologies that haven't even been imagined yet, just waiting to be unleashed in the great wave of this clean energy revolution. You will power the world's leaders to action with your commitment, intelligence, and passion, and I am so proud to be joining with you here today, and we are all looking forward to hearing you and your vision for what this planet can be. So let me now turn and recognize from the state of Maryland, Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Well, thank you, Ed Markey, and it is wonderful to be here with my colleagues. It's especially wonderful to be here with young activists from across the world demanding that the United States Congress take action on the most pressing challenge of our times, and that is addressing climate change. The costs of inaction go up by the day, and the opportunities in terms of jobs in the clean energy area are there if we're just bold enough to take the steps that we need to take, passing the Green New Deal, passing other meaningful measures that have been introduced to the United States Congress. I'm especially heartened that all the young people have taken this call and organized around the world to demand action from countries across the globe. Because if you look at social movements, successful social movements around the world and especially in this country, whether it was the women's rights movement or the civil rights movement or other successful movements for social justice, young people were at the vanguard. And it was only when young people pushed that you saw action here in the United States Congress. One of our colleagues across the way in the House is John Lewis. He was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He has an expression about the need to get into, quote, good trouble, unquote, getting in the way of injustice. And that's what the young people are doing to make sure that we fire up enough pressure to get Congress to take meaningful action. I was in college part of the college anti-apartheid movement, where we were demanding that our college divest from investments in the racist apartheid regime. And we were successful. But that movement was only successful here in Congress many years later, when Congress did pass legislation imposing sanctions on South Africa to end apartheid. So there are two important lessons there. One is that young people led the movement on college campuses and in schools around the country. And that movement did lead to congressional action. We just need to compress that timetable. We need to make sure Congress acts now, and that's why we're so thrilled to welcome the young activists here, because just like in those earlier successful social movements for civil rights, for women's rights, they will make the difference here, and we celebrate their action. But the best way to celebrate it, of course, is to pass meaningful bills here in the United States Congress. And now it's my privilege to turn over the mic to someone who's been at the forefront of these efforts in the United States Congress and around the country, Jeff Merkley from Oregon.
Henry David Thoreau said, "What use is a home if you don't have a tolerable planet to put it on?" And now here we are in the real battle for a tolerable planet. And it is our young people, our young champions who are really driving this message. They're going to be here long after we are gone, and they're going to see the full impacts of carbon pollution. I think about how much the atmosphere has changed just in my lifetime. I invite all of you to breathe in a lungful of air and hold it for a moment and ponder the fact that it is incredibly different from the air when I was born. It has 33% more carbon on it. And that extra carbon in my home state, that means the snowpack melts earlier and affects the irrigation water, and it affects the health of our trout and salmon streams. It means the ticks are living through the winter and causing all kinds of problems. It means that the pine beetles are living through the winter. Great for pine beetles, terrible for pine trees. It means a forest fire season that is longer and stronger. All of this just in my state, not to mention the acidification of the Pacific Ocean, so that now we have to artificially buffer the water for baby oysters to survive on the Oregon coast. All of this will continue to get worse and worse if we don't drive an incredibly fast transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. So I am here to simply say a huge and massive thank you to the youth who are helping to amplify and drive this message. I was at a sunrise movement in Oregon where the room was full of young people, full of energy, and I thought, this is the type of enthusiastic, driven, focused political force that we have rarely seen in recent times, and it's going to make a huge difference. I was with a group of sixth graders over at an observatory at a micro brew pub in Bend, Oregon, and they called me over. The sixth graders said, "Senator, how big is the universe?" And I thought, well, I can say a thing or two about that, remembering something from 10 or 15 years ago, that there may be 1 billion galaxies with more than a billion stars each on average. And they said, "Oh no, Senator, it's far bigger than that. The most recent estimates are 2 trillion galaxies, and the Milky Way alone has 100 billion stars." But here's the thing. All of those 2 trillion billion stars and their planets, we can't get to a single one. We only have planet Earth. We only have this blue-green orb. And right now we're decimating it in a single human lifetime. This has to end, and it's the youth who are going to drive the political energy to make sure that action happens in this Senate and action happens in that House, because time is short and we must move quickly. And so here's a huge thank you to the youth of America and the youth of the world who will not take no action as an answer. Thank you. And now we're turning to Martin Heinrich of New Mexico, who has been a powerful voice on these challenges.
Thank you, Senator Merkley. What's at stake here? You've all seen the stories coming from our neighbors in the Bahamas. And unfortunately, that kind of powerful story is all too common today. In the West, we see it in worse droughts, we see it in longer droughts, we see it in wildfires that burn like nothing we could have imagined just a few decades ago. I come to the U.S. Senate from a little different path than most of my colleagues. I started as an engineer, and about 25 years ago I started working on clean energy technology. The reality is we don't lack the technology. We don't lack the solutions to make this right. What we lack is the political will among our colleagues to do something. And it is this generation of activists, from indigenous activists across the Americas to people like Greta Thunberg, who have stood up and said, you will do something. Our kids deserve that. This next generation deserves the opportunity that we all had at their age. And I hope they will continue to lead the way, because I'm afraid we will not make the changes that we need unless they demand that action of us in the United States Senate, in the United States House of Representatives, and from every level of government across this planet. I am both more frightened at the prospect of what is possible in the coming years than I have ever been, and at the same time more hopeful because of the leadership that I see in this generation. I want to thank them.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin, so much. And now we're going to hear from the young leaders from across our country and across the planet who are here to tell the American people, but to tell their elected leaders that the time is now, that the planet is running a fever. There are no emergency rooms for planets. We must engage in immediate, urgent, preventative care of this planet by deploying the renewable energy resources, by deploying the non-greenhouse gas emitting resources that can reduce dramatically the likelihood that we see catastrophic consequences for our planet. So first, we're going to hear from Aramisa Barbosa Ribeiro, who is a youth environmental activist from Brazil. Welcome.
Obrigada, senador Markey, Greta e os demais participantes. Meu nome é Aramisa Chacriabá, eu tenho 19 anos, sou do povo Chacriabá do Brasil.
Thank you, Senator Markey, Greta, and other participants. My name is Aramisa Chacriabá. I'm 19 years old. I'm from the Chacriabá people in Brazil.
Estou aqui hoje representando os 25 milhões de indígenas e membros de comunidades tradicionais unidos pela Aliança Global dos Povos Territoriais. Essa aliança é formada por 4 organizações do Brasil, a Bacia Amazônia, da Mesoamérica e da Indonésia, que juntas protegem 600 milhões de hectares da floresta e somos os principais guardiões da floresta.
I am here representing the more than 25 million indigenous people and members of traditional communities united by the Global Alliance of Territorial Peoples. This alliance is formed by 4 organizations from Brazil, the Amazon Basin, Mesoamerica, and Indonesia, which together protect 600 million hectares of forest. We are the main guardians of the forest.
Nós, povos indígenas, dependemos da natureza, que é a nossa mãe, e do nosso território, porque é isso que nos mantém vivos. Mas estamos sendo perseguidos, ameaçados e assassinados. Só o ano passado foram 164 defensores da natureza mortos, quase um a cada 2 dias. Não podemos aceitar que a nossa derramada de sangue, nenhuma gota mais de sangue seja derramada.
We indigenous people depend on the nature on nature that is our mother and our territory, because that is what keeps us alive. But we are being persecuted, threatened, and murdered. Last year alone, 164 defenders of the environment were killed, almost one every second day. We cannot accept that another drop of indigenous blood be spilled.
Essa é a minha primeira vez nos Estados Unidos e agradeço a chance de estar aqui. Sei que é um país mais rico do mundo, mas também que emitiu os gases que causam as mudanças climáticas. Só que esses gases, porque a atmosfera do planeta não tem fronteiras, causa muitos impactos negativos no mundo todo, e não só aqui.
This is my first time in the United States, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know this is the richest country in the world, but it is also the one that has emitted the most gases that cause climate change. But these gases, because the planet's atmosphere has no borders, have negative impacts around the world, not just here.
Meu território no Brasil fica no Cerrado. Mesmo jovem, eu consigo ver o bioma desaparecendo, as plantas nativas morrendo por falta de água. E se continuar assim, daqui 20 anos a minha casa vai virar um deserto. O meu povo corre o risco de virar história. E neste exato momento, a Amazônia, casa dos meus parentes, está queimando.
My territory is Brazil. In Brazil is in the dry highlands of the Cerrado. Even the young can see this biome disappearing and our native plants dying due to lack of water. If it goes on like this, 20 years from now, my homeland will become a desert. My people will be at risk of becoming history. Right now, the Amazon, home to millions of my relatives, is burning.
São bilhões de pessoas que dependem do ar que está sendo poluído, da água que está secando, das árvores que estão morrendo e dos animais que estão sumindo.
Billions of people depend on the air that is now polluted, the water that is drying up, on trees that are dying, and on animals that are ceasing to exist.
Os governos do Brasil, dos Estados Unidos, estão ajudando. Eles promovem narrativas baseadas em ódio, modelo de desenvolvimento que ataca a natureza e os povos indígenas. Esses governos estão querendo nos colocar em extinção. São parte do problema do planeta.
The current governments of Brazil and the United States are not helping. They promote hate-based narratives and a development model that attacks nature and indigenous peoples. These governments are trying to lead us to extinction. They are part of the problem.
Tanto o Brasil como os Estados Unidos têm que parar de ser parte do problema e começar a agir para ser parte da solução. Para isso, precisam basear suas políticas em fatos científicos, rejeitar produtos obtidos às custas da destruição da natureza, cumprir acordos internacionais e garantir os direitos territoriais dos povos indígenas e comunidades tradicionais.
Both Brazil and the United States must stop being part of the problem and start acting as part of the solution. They must base their policies on scientific facts, reject products obtained at the expense of nature's destruction, comply with international agreements, and guarantee the territorial rights of indigenous peoples and traditional communities.
Nós vamos entregar cartas com a cobrança para vários membros do Congresso, com que vamos nos encontrar. Estamos prontos para trabalhar junto daqueles que querem ser parte da solução para o nosso planeta.
This week we will deliver letters with these demands to the various members of the Congress we will meet. We are ready to work with those who want to be part of the solution for our planet.
Enquanto jovem indígena, eu entendo tudo o que está acontecendo e vejo que se faz a necessária união dos jovens para dar continuidade nessa luta que vem desde os nossos ancestrais e que vai proteger as nossas gerações futuras.
As a young indigenous woman, I understand everything that is happening. And I can see that a youth movement is needed to continue the struggle that was started by our ancestors and will protect our future generations.
Organizações dos povos indígenas e comunidades locais já atuam com o movimento. Agora estamos nos fortalecendo porque precisamos trabalhar com os jovens de todo o mundo e estamos trabalhando isso. É por isso que estou aqui com a Greta e os demais ativistas, os Guardiões da Floresta.
Indigenous people organizations and local communities already act as a movement. Now we are getting stronger because we are working with young people from all over the world. That is why I'm here with Greta and the other activists and the forest keepers.
Adultos em política, negócio e economia não têm sido capazes de resolver a crise climática. A juventude tem o poder de mudar o futuro.
Adults in politics, business and economics have not yet been able to solve the climate crisis. Youth has the power to change the future. Thank you.
Demarcação já!
Demarcação já!
demarcation now.
So, thank you so much. Thank you for that powerful statement. I would ask all the other youth leaders to please come up, if you would, while we continue this speaking program. It would be extremely helpful for everyone to see the movement which has been created globally. And while we're waiting, let me now turn and recognize another great leader in the United States Senate on all of these issues from the state of Hawaii, Mazie Hirono.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Aloha, everyone. I want to start by, of course, thanking all of you, and especially the young leaders who are here, and Senator Markey and my other colleagues. Senator, thank you for your leadership on the Green New Deal. You know, when I hear things like, I don't believe in climate change, I want to say, what do you think? Is this a religion? No, it's not religion. It's whether you're going to base your position on facts. So climate change is a fact. It is a global problem. And to see the president unilaterally withdraw from the Paris climate change means that our country has ceded, in my view, the leadership role that we can play in combating global warming and climate change. So in this leadership vacuum, we see young people who are coming forward to provide the leadership that is lacking. And we have all heard from young people in our states. I heard from Messina, who's an 11-year-old in Hawaii, who wrote to me saying, do something, save the planet for my generation. I heard from Kavika, who is a high school leader on fighting climate change in Hawaii. And of course, as an island state, we know we are at the tip of the spear on the evidence of climate change. We have coral bleaching, we have rising sea levels, all of those issues that impact communities and states and places like ours in the Pacific Rim. So I want to thank Greta, of course, for really being the spark plug that is leading to this global recognition among young people and coming together of young people to tell us, those of us who are in leadership, but really this is an issue that impacts all of us. These are not normal times. We all have to raise our voices. We all need to come together and recognize that climate change is real and we don't have that much time to do something about it, among so many other things that we need to do something about. So mahalo nui loa to all of you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Nadia, Nazar, co-founder and co-executive director of Zero Hour. Welcome, Nadia.
I want to first acknowledge that we are on stolen land. We are on the stolen land of the Piscataway Indian Nation. My name is Nadia Nazar. I'm 17 years old, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm an artist and climate activist. I'm a founder of the youth-led climate organization known as Zero Hour, as well as the co-executive director and art director. My family in Kerala, India, experienced the flooding that happened from the monsoon rains last year. Thousands of people got displaced, hundreds of people died. My family was fortunately okay and did not suffer the consequences, but so many low-income people in Kerala, India, passed away and lost their homes and lives. This was interesting for me to see because around the same time there was flooding in Ellicott City, Maryland, and my friends lived in Ellicott City, Maryland, and checking in on them, seeing if they were okay from the flooding. Seeing that flooding in India and seeing the flooding here was devastating. This is only one part of my story, one small aspect of my story, but my story is amongst many, many others. My story lies next to the girl that drowned in the Bahamas from the Hurricane Dorian. My story lies next to the indigenous people laying their lives down in front of bulldozers to protect their land. My story lies next to the elderly person that died in the California forest fires. This is the stake of our unalienable rights. This is the stake of our clean water, clean air. This is the stake of a livable planet for everyone. And we don't want to just make the planet livable for our generation. We want to make the planet sustainable for all, for generations after us. We don't want to just survive, but we want to thrive. We want to be able to live normal lives on this beautiful planet, like how our parents did and our ancestors did, just like how many of these elected officials and many of you all have lived for the vast majority of your lives. I am not a part of Generation Z. I refuse to be a part of the last generation. I am a part of Gen GND, the generation of the Green New Deal. We are a coalition including youth-led climate organizations, Zero Hour, the Sunrise Movement, International Indigenous Youth Council, U.S. Youth Climate Strike, and the National Children's Campaign. We are not Gen Z, we are Gen GND. And here today on the Capitol of the United States, a new era begins. Gen GND today declares the era of the Green New Deal. This era will focus on 5 elements of the Green New Deal resolution by Senator Markey and Representative Ocasio-Cortez. This era will include a force of unstoppable youth demanding and acting for respect of indigenous land, sustainable agriculture, protecting biodiversity, environmental justice, and a just transition away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy. Generation of the Green New Deal will not only survive, but we will thrive. We refuse to be the last generation. We will no longer be known as the kids fighting the apocalypse. We will be known as the solution to the climate crisis. This September 20th, youth and adults around the world are invited to strike with us and be a part of the beginning of the era of the Green New Deal. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. Next, we're going to hear from Kallan Benson from Fridays for the Future USA. Welcome, Kallan.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Kallan Benson. I'm from Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I am a part of Fridays for Future, and I am a striker because I don't feel like I or my generation has a choice. Like so many others in the movement, I am here because I am terrified and scared of what can happen if we don't take action. I was one of the first strikers here in the United States, and I have watched this movement grow from a movement of 2 people to a movement of almost 800 locations around the country this next Friday. On the 20th, we want everyone to come out. You at home, our elected officials, all of us need to be out there raising our voices, urging climate action. But it is not the end. After the 20th, we will continue being out there every single Friday and then on to our next deep strikes. And you have to be involved. And that means you adults as well. You are the ones currently in power. We don't have time to wait till my generation takes over. It's you that have to act. We need you to listen to the scientists that are showing us that climate change is here and climate change is human caused. Stop burning fossil fuels. Please, for my generation. Thank you all.
Excellent job. Excellent job. Next, we're going to hear from Tamara Toles O'Loughlin, the North American Director of 350.org. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I clearly do not represent the youth, but we're here supporting them. I'm the North America Director at 350.org, and my name is Tamara Toles O'Loughlin. I am here to plant a flag for the multi-generational, multiracial work ahead, and to say that we are incredibly supportive as the lead organizer of the Youth Climate Coalition, who has demanded clearly the things that we've been asking for. They have figured out what they need, and they need it now. It is our job, when the cameras go away, when the chatter and the buzz are less prominent, to do what is within our authority and our power to support their demands for environmental justice, for the end of fossil fuels, and to show up on September 20th through the 27th to support their demands and then thereafter. They have asked for things that I do not have to explain, but that we all need. And so it's imperative that we take this moment with the utmost seriousness, and that after we shake their hands and tell them they're great, we do our jobs. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. So we thank all of you for being here. We're joined by Greta Thunberg as well, and all of the great young leaders of our country and around the planet. This is, without question, an intergenerational compact which is being constructed in order to make sure that we defeat Donald Trump, we defeat his energy and climate agenda. He is the denier in chief, and he sits in the Oval Office of our country. So this movement is something that comes at a critical time because, without question, the science has made it very clear that the planet is running out of time. The United Nations issued a report concluding that at the end of 2018. 13 American agencies issued a similar report in November of 2018, concluding that the planet could warm by 6 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit by the year 2100, 81 years from now, and that sea levels could go up by 10 feet if we do not take urgent action and end business as usual. So let me just stop right there and ask if any of you have any questions that you would like to pose.
Thanks, everybody.
That's it. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Much appreciated. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi there, how are you?
How you doing? Good.
I just wanted to ask you, with the urgency of the climate change, would you support eliminating the filibuster if that's what it takes to get this done?
If we win the House, if we win the Senate, if we win the presidency,
Is that it?
and there's a huge movement in 2020 towards the goal of passing comprehensive climate legislation, then that could avoid maybe filibuster. Let's see what happens at that point in time after the election in 2020. But ultimately, the problem is urgent.
Nazar. That's not
we may have to consider that
It's
for
not Nazar.
all of
It is
the politics of 2020 and into 2021.
So you're open to it, but you're not in favor of it at this point?
We could win overwhelmingly the House,
Nadia,
the Senate,
Nazar.
and the presidency. But at that point, we'll be in a very strong position to take very aggressive action. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
I can.
How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Good.
Very good.
So did you get to make
Thank you. Much appreciated.